Midweek Madness. Hey, Peter Schrager, what are you hot on this Wednesday morning?
Well, Greeny, I'm fresh off a red eye from Seattle, and I will tell you, this game ended very late on the East Coast, and we might not have given it the attention it deserves. Seattle is a Super Bowl contender. The quietest 5-2 team in the league, and maybe the very best defense in the league. Mike McDonald has these guys playing at all three levels, and they gave C.J. Stroud fifth. Seattle, a team we're not talking about, they should be on our radar.
I'm completely with you on that one. Jeffrey, how about you? Give me another team everyone's not talking about.
Indianapolis Colts, the best team in the NFL. And they get, listen,
Shocking.
y'all hear it from me, but no one else is talking about this team. Here's the other part. The defense. No, they talk about their offense. Their defense, K-Mart, is sneaky good. How many 100 yards rushers have they given to them? None. They locking people down, and they're making people try to beat them through the air. They're making play check down football. This is a very balanced football team, and one that will travel. I'm letting y'all know.
They have Jeff so excited he's cutting himself off mid-sentence again. We all love it. Kmart, give me something you're hot on.
All right, listen, all credit to Dan Campbell, but defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard needs to be a household name. Think about this Lions secondary. Weeks 1 through 4, same lineup. Week 7, they literally had 4 different guys in their secondary, and they still made life hell for Baker Mayfield. So, yeah, the Lions, their defense also solid.
He did a great job. Yet Lions, another one of those 5-2 teams. And then there are the Packers. Domonique, what are you hot on?
I just want the Packers to finally put it all together offensively. Like, they're surprisingly good on third and long situations. Like, some of the more difficult things to do offensively, they're good at. They have a super talented quarterback, great weapons. Matthew Golden is coming on. They got Tucker Kraft. I want them to put up numbers up against this Steelers defense that isn't quite what we all thought it was. We saw how they struggled.
That's understatement.
In defense of the Steelers defense is they actually do win a lot of pass rush. Like, the pass rush win rate is very high. They don't convert it to a lot of sacks, which is a problem, but their coverage hasn't been as good. It feels like Ramsey has lost a little bit of a step, which as a defensive back, it matters a lot. But that defense is the core of what that team's supposed to be, and they haven't been it so far.
That's the point. I really want to start the conversation there. Look, the week that Aaron Rodgers is playing the Packers, you feel like you want to start the conversation with him and what he will do against the Green Bay defense and Micah Parsons and all that. But the truth is, the Steeler defense, and your advanced stats are what they are, but the reality is they're giving up points and chunks and all kinds of stuff. This was supposed to be the year that Rodgers just shows up and does just enough, and then the Steelers do their Steeler thing by defense and running the ball. The Steeler defense might be the most disappointing unit, all things considered, Jeff, to me, in the entire NFL.
Yeah, not maybe. They definitely are. Like you said, for the money they put in this defense and the expectations of what this defense was going to be, they let the Bengals, who hadn't run the ball on anybody all season, rush for 100 yards in 10 carries. That is insane. Like, you would never, the Steelers never gave up 100-yard rushers. Yeah. And what does that do? It opens up for Chase, for Higgins, for a guy like Flacco, for your offensive line to be able to win in one-on-one pass rush. You have to earn the right to rush the passer. Right. And the problem for the Steelers is, and Mike Tomlin said this at halftime, we got to make them a one-dimensional football team. We haven't earned that right. They have got to earn that by shutting the run game down and making people be one-dimensional. That's what the Steelers have done for 25 years, and what you fully expect, because you thought Rodgers was going to walk in and be able to just, the same thing that he had from the Jets. Their defense is going to be good enough. All you got to do is just be status quo, just be average, and we'll win a lot of games. The problem is they're asking him to win games, not just be okay.
Right, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was saying what's most alarming about it, and you can speak to this, is that this offseason, like, this isn't a surprise. They went out and they acquired Jalen Ramsey. They acquired Darius Slay. Right. They acquired Thornhill. Then they re-upped with Deshaun Elliott. And then they said, hey, we still have Porter who's going to come in. So you thought that they had all the pieces, and it was a point of emphasis this offseason, and it's still not good enough. Right. That's what alarms you this far into the season.
Yeah, and Hayward and Watt, like those guys, and Queen, like the front seven is really what's been like the strong suit. And they added these DBs, which we thought was going to help. And I mean, in Ramsey's defense, he had a little bit of a rough game, but they threw at Chase. Like, if you go 50% as a DB, you're living great. You can't throw 23 times and expect me to stop him every time. So they're asking a lot more of those DBs. We need some sacks. We need some turnovers.
So the reality is that's one side of it. That's the Steeler defense. But the storyline here, of course, this is a grudge match, 20 years in the making. Aaron Rodgers, one of the all-time great careers ever at Green Bay, as Favre did a generation ago, going back up against the Packers. That's the storyline here at a time where Rodgers is playing pretty well.
He's playing pretty well. Even when I watch them in person, when you watch Steelers offense, at times they're scuffling, right? You just watch them, even when they played the Browns, it was like, okay, both of these offenses don't look good. And then here comes Rodgers, and he finds DK deep. That's part of the reason they got DK, right, is because when everything else seems to falter, I can find DK in the end zone or deep, and that seems to be the big ticket item. But otherwise, I don't know. I just feel like there's still some questions on this offense. But Rodgers, when you need a big play, he's still able to find his guys. Pat Frymouth, 2 touchdowns the last game.
Yeah. How about the emotions of it? What would you anticipate, Jeff? I mean, you were close. You are so close to Peyton. He goes back and plays, against the Colts once upon a time. You, as a Green Bay Packer, that sort of thing. Yeah. What would you imagine this is going to be like?
These are some of the most, I guess, nerve-wracking pre-games that you have, right? You love this team, man. You know every equipment guy, you know every doctor, you know all the staff, all the coaches. You spent, 2 decades with these people. So you have a relationship with literally everybody in the building, and they're standing on the other side of you. And it is a very odd feeling when you look over and you've worn that uniform for your whole career, and now you're in a different uniform and you're expected to do different things. So there are a ton of emotions. And let me tell you, anybody who's like, it's just a game, it's not just a game, bro. You want to beat the team, and this is the group that let him go. They let you go for the guy behind you, right? So they let you go for love. The head coach didn't want you. He didn't want, so it was personal. It was a little different for me because the regime changed, right? Like everybody left. He's looking at all the same guys. He was the piece that was removed with expectations they were going to do something
I remember
special.
When Favre went back there the first time as a Viking, it was a divisional game. He went into Green Bay and won. The Packers were not, they were sort of still building their way back. Now the Packers are expected to win this game. I like the question on the screen. If I'm telling you right now one of these 2 quarterbacks is going to be the reason his team wins on Sunday night, which quarterback is it going to be?
I mean, I got to go with Jordan Love. Like, I think that their offense, I made this argument earlier, I think their offense is on the verge. They have the weapons. They have the talent.
We are back on Get Up. It's our favorite photo. It's our favorite feature. Would K-Mart be shocked? And here we go. K-Mart, we like to joke. You sort of are our beat reporter for the entire AFC North. Would K-Mart be shocked if the 1-5 Ravens still win that division?
Reading my answer might shock you, but I would not be shocked if the Ravens actually won the AFC North because A, they have the best roster in the division, and have you looked at their strength of schedule? Look at the teams that they're playing going forward. When you compare it to the Steelers, we just got through talking about the Steelers, how there's still questions on defense and offense, and now look at the strength of schedule. I do think things play out easier for the Ravens on paper, but they actually got to win some games.
And they need to get Lamar back healthy, too. That's a big part of it. Let's go to the NFC. Would K-Mart be shocked if the Vikings wind up staying with Carson Wentz for the entire rest of the season?
Okay, I would be very shocked because if you're telling me Carson Wentz is going to be the guy the whole year, then you're telling me that maybe it was a mistake for you to pin all your hopes, at least this year, on J.J. McCarthy. I just wouldn't understand that about face when everything to this point had been signaling J.J. is the guy when healthy.
I completely agree with you. It would look very strange if they wind up doing it. Then finally,
what else you got?
I was going to ask you if you'd be shocked if the Giants upset the Eagles this weekend. And then this happened. Can we put it up on the screen, please? A.J. Brown coming off a magnificent game. He had 121 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, one of which won the game for them. And then on Instagram yesterday, he posts the message, using me, but not using me. K-Mart, you are my resident social media translator. What in the world am I supposed to make of that?
Guys, I'm getting too old for this crap. Honestly, so it is something. Because it's A.J. Brown and he's tweeting it, and because everything is left open to interpretation. That's why it's something. Because you don't know, is he just trolling us at this point? Is he trolling the media? Is he still upset after they won, after he scored 2 touchdowns, after everybody is praising their passing game and Jalen Hurts? I don't know, but I will say, A.J. Brown constantly doing this, he is literally putting the spotlight on his quarterback, on Kevin Patullo, on Nick Sirianni every time he does this, and I don't understand why he would do that.
The timing of it is what is so confusing to me, confounding, in fact. He just had the monster game. Right. He makes the biggest play maybe of the Eagles' season. They're going to lose that game if they don't pick up that 3rd down. He catches this long touchdown. He's the hero. Everyone's happy. Everything is getting better. They're bringing back Brandon Graham now to try and broker some sort of, this is the play that they run the sluggo and that big slot late in that game. Domonique, what is going on here?
I mean, I have to assume that maybe some family is calling and asking for money, and that's what he's talking about. Like this to me, it feels hard to imagine that after this game. And of course, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but it's hard to imagine that after the game that he had, and using me but yet not using me feels like maybe they aren't designing things for me, but I'm still getting the ball. But it's clear on that last most pivotal play against zero coverage and all-out blitz, they decided they were going to throw a sluggo to A.J. Brown. So I have a hard time understanding how, if getting used is, and he doesn't necessarily say that it bothers him. I don't know. It's impossible to decide.
But people in that building don't know what. That to me is sort of like.
I like it. Hopefully, it's a family thing. But my favorite part about the whole thing, and you know, I'm very up on all the Instagram stuff.
Yeah.
If you look at his Instagram handle, it's always open.
Yes. Right.
That's every receiver. So maybe he just wants more touches.
1K always open. Maybe he's
1K.
worried about that 1K.
Yeah, 1K.
Here's the thing.
Maybe that matters.
Like I don't know what's going on, but that's what I wanted to ask you. If you're just like one of the rank and file players, and that team has a lot of stars. But I mean, we just won a big game. You just had a monster game. We're dealing with this now. One day we can't decide if we had a meeting or we didn't have a meeting. What actually constitutes a meeting? I'm posting this. I'm cryptically posting biblical verses. I mean, what the hell is going on?
Let me just help you right here, dude. These dudes don't care. I'm going to tell you right now, you're in the locker room, I don't care. I don't care what he's saying. I don't care. Catch the freaking ball, score touchdowns, we'll keep winning. I'll be dead honest. You can do whatever you want, bro. We're going to block. We're going to do our stuff. But, like, the distraction part for players, they can compartmentalize better than anybody else in the world. What Kimberley said is right. Sirianni, it's a nightmare, right? Kevin Patullo, it's a nightmare because you got to answer every question. When you're a player in that locker room and your job and your focus is winning football games, you ignore all the nonsense that's out of your control because your job is on the line. You got to take care of your business. And there are a lot of dudes on the offensive side that got to improve to get back to where they want. But it is not players aren't nearly as worried and concerned as the head coach.
Eric, our producer, I'm staying here. We'll get back to the Russell Wilson stuff later. We need to stay. This, to me, this is why, if you want to not trust that the Eagles are okay, this is why you don't trust that it's okay. After what should have been a monster win for them last week, we're dealing in this.
5-2 with wins over the Rams, the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Bucks. You would think just on paper, Eagles should be thrilled. I would also add this. The Brandon Graham thing was in the works. It was happening in the last couple of weeks. He's been working on it every day. The Philly media and everyone who's an Eagles person looked at it as, BG's coming back. I have to think that they were like, we need that leadership.
Yes.
And they sought him after
force in there.
for that. And that's a bad sign if you're a team that's coming off a Super Bowl championship that you need to bring back a veteran who rode off on his white horse and was done and did it as a Super Bowl champion.
But remember that, right? Remember how they finished. The dude's reading a book. The guy that we're talking about is tweeting is reading a book on the sideline last year. If you don't think they can work through it, so when you're like, it is in turmoil, they live in turmoil, but some houses want to be in chaos, bro. This is a house that likes to live in chaos.
I agree.
And that's
I'm not saying they can't work through it. They probably can, but it's the reason that you worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, they will work through it. It's concerning. I'm a little also concerning is that Jeff's so offended by reading. You're like, just how dare something? How dare you try to inform yourself?
It's more about the moment that you choose to read. So if I got my book and started reading right here, it probably hurt.
He's saying all the other players are like, I don't give a damn. And I get that. The quarterback has to.
I think
the quarterback has to pay
attention.
attention.
The thing about distractions is that they're not a problem until you lose. Yeah. So right now, no one's paying attention to it. They're laughing at it or whatever. It's not a big deal. But once you start losing, then it gives the reporters something to ask about. It gives your family and friends something to ask about. And then you come back into the locker room like, man, what's going on? But I think football has a sorting mechanism for everybody. Like, there's nobody in the NFL who's slow. There's nobody in the NFL who's weak physically. There's also no one in the NFL who has not learned to compartmentalize their problems.
That's right.
Those guys are capable of doing it.
Just having a good year. Jonathan Taylor is having one of the great years that we have ever seen, and he is currently, Jeff, an odds-on favorite for Offensive Player of the Year.
Oh, he should be. I mean, first of all, it's an incredible story because of how his career has gone. This is a great team. He's a selfless kid. It is, for somebody like him to get this is unbelievable. You hope it continues to go in this direction. And when you look at the entirety of the team, how well everybody's playing, it's all based on Jonathan Taylor. And let me say this, reminds me so much of last year's Eagles team. When Saquon had all these explosive plays, everybody was doing it. That is what he has been putting in for the Colts offense, is he's opened everything up because of how good he has been.
Look how much he learned from just that little bit of reading my book. He is this year's Saquon. And I said it last year, and I'll say it this year. Saquon Barkley should have been the MVP of the league. Yep. Saquon Barkley was the person who most influenced his team's success. And right now, Jonathan Taylor is that. We don't even consider giving that award to running backs anymore, but we should. And right now, he's the MVP of the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to argue that quarterbacks, the value a quarterback has to a roster is more important. But the thing is, the quarterback's value in this case is a lot influenced by the value that the running back creates. So, I think we have to be able to differentiate between who is like the central spoke in a offense. And right now, it's so clearly that it's Jonathan Taylor.
Absolutely.
Most other places, of course, it's a quarterback.
And why is the running back so good?
Because the O-line is...
There we go! Talk to me.
Give it to Quinn Nelson. Give him the MVP.
Yes! Let me get to my next one. Peter, you were in Seattle for the game on Monday night.
Yeah.
The next stat, I want everyone to be aware that Jackson Smith-Njigba is not just having a good year. He's leading the league in receiving yards by nearly 200. He is on pace to break the all-time single-season record held by Calvin Johnson, who set it in 2012. For the record, Calvin Johnson was 6'5". Jackson Smith-Njigba, he is not built like him or like any of the other big-time receivers in the league this year, but he might be the best in the league.
And long overlooked at Ohio State by Olave and Garrett Wilson, who are in the same wide receivers room, goes nuts in the Rose Bowl, overlooked in the draft where he fell to the mid-20s. And I was there on Monday night. He's not built like Calvin Johnson. He also doesn't move like some of these other wide receivers, like a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson. He's a little slow out of the gates, just so precise. Spoke to Sam Darnold about it. Said, what is it like throwing him? Because they have an amazing connection. Because it's like he's figure skating, which is the first time I've ever heard that about a receiver. He just glides, and everything is rounded out perfectly, and he gets everything, high, low, everywhere. Even C.J. Stroud, who we spoke with in the production meeting, said at Ohio State, that was the dude. That was the guy. Really? He doesn't talk a big game. Doesn't talk about me. Is not that receiver, and yet might be having the greatest one we've ever seen as far as seasons go.
Always open.
Always
right?
open.
So when you're talking about who are the best wide receivers in the NFL, people are going to mention Puka and Jamar and George Pickens is having a great year. And they never mention JSN.
Yep.
Now we need to. We need to look at him.
He is, right now, as effective as any receiver has ever been to this point. So that was the two of the three stats I wanted you to know. Here's the third one. The Dallas Cowboys, we know how good their offense has been this year, but their home-road splits are really fascinating. Look at these numbers. In their home games this year, 41 points, 441 yards. On the road, you see those numbers fall off substantially. Only once have they scored 30 points on the road this season. And so I have a question about the Cowboys because, look, we all understand Jerry Jones actually had a very good offseason with one enormous exception, right? He brought in George Pickens. He brought in Javonte Williams. He did a lot of really good things. Trading away Micah. If they had Micah Parsons right now, we might be talking about them as a Super Bowl team. Could they make a trade for something on defense that would make them a Super Bowl contender in your eyes right now?
I mean, they should try. I don't know that they can because what they've lost in Micah Parsons was the centerpiece. We talked about Jonathan Taylor being the centerpiece of the Colts offense. They lost that centerpiece of their defense. And finding someone to replace that may improve their defense some, but I'm not sure that it gets them to a level to be legitimate contenders. But the way that they're playing right now on offense, you have to try something.
Max Crosby, could they get – the Raiders are terrible. They're going to be terrible for a while. They might as well trade their best player and start rebuilding or all that kind of stuff.
No, you're laughing. Look, it's out there. And here's the deal. He did sign a 3-year extension in March with the new ownership group and the new GM, John Spytek.
That hurts.
All guaranteed money.
There goes my idea.
Yes.
No, but it's been out there because of how bad they are, and they are awful right now. But Max Crosby is a cornerstone piece, and I did their game week 2 against the Chargers, and to a man, everyone said he's the first guy in, he's the culture setter. I just can't imagine the Raiders trading Max Crosby, although if I'm the Cowboys, I'm calling every hour on the hour, can we get Max Crosby?
So the same Cowboys, let me back to them.
Right.
So the same Cowboys
Right.
who traded away their best player,
Yes.
their pass rusher.
Right.
Now you want them to call the Las Vegas Raiders
Right.
to get their best pass rusher?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah.
Because again, every move that Jerry makes doesn't make sense collectively. That's what's so frustrating about them because they had Micah Parsons and they didn't want to re-sign him. I just feel like with the Cowboys, I don't think they're just one move away. And this is not a team that likes to make moves. They clearly,
Right.
before this offseason. They don't like to make these sort of trade deadline type of
They like
big
to make moves like
But-
the day before the season.
I
Really
slightly
solid.
disagree.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced they aren't just one player away. Like that offense is that good, and they just their defense is. And
You
so
think they're one player away? Yes or
Well, I
no?
think that they are. They need something that generates some big plays on their defense. They're not going to become a good defense this year. But what they
what is
can
Jerry
do,
supposed to say?
Jerry just came out and said that their best part of their team was being able to rush the passer. So when
I'm not sure what he's watching, but they're really not doing that well.
That's what I'm saying. So it depends on like where he thinks he needs to trade for, right? Where does he think do they need to get better in the middle of their defense? So that's the part that you don't trust with Jerry is if he's telling you that already that's where he is.
Contract things aside, if you put Max Crosby on that team, I think Eberflus's defense needs a strong defensive line.
For
to be
sure.
good. That improves it. So if you connect this trade with the Micah Parsons trade, and if it does happen, then you end up trading Micah Parsons, and say you send a 1 to get Max Crosby. You trade Micah Parsons for Kenny Clark and Max Crosby. That feels like a more logical way to build a team than what they've done so far. It starts to make Jerry's plan, if there is one, make a little bit more sense.
There is one.